Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Content Mix. I'm Carlota Pico, your host for today's show, and I'm excited to introduce Sara Lesina, who is Global Marketing Director at Pharma and Nutrition Capsules and Health Ingredients at Lonza. Wow, that's a mouthful, Sara. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Content Mix.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Sara, so tell me a little bit about your background experience. How did you get into the pharma industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I don't come originally from the pharma industry. I come from the food ingredients and nutrition business. And that was the link that brought me originally to Lonza through a company called Capsugel, which was active also in the nutrition space. I really wanted to go into pharma. I discovered this passion when I was doing my MBA a few years ago. And I realized that I wanted to work in the sector to basically contribute from a marketing perspective to a sector that actually does a lot of good for society and for communities. And I've been fascinated ever since. And yeah, I was really lucky to have the opportunity to join Capsugel and then Lonza after acquisition. And I've been there ever since. It's about 3 years now.
Okay, excellent. And so what's your role look like now? What do you do in your everyday?
Yeah, so actually you're getting me at a really nice and interesting moment because I'm changing roles within Lonza. So my current or almost former role is head of marketing for one of the business units of Lonza, like you said, the capsules, pharma and nutrition business. And now I'm going to transition into the role of head of brand and advertising for the entire Lonza. So it's going to be actually a segment role. Supporting all the different business units and divisions of Lonza, still in the pharma and nutrition sector.
Okay, so you're going from marketing to advertising?
It's still marketing. It's in the marketing team, but particularly dedicated to developing the brand, expanding the brand, and working really on the messaging to make sure that we increase the impact towards our customers and stakeholders at large. Customers that want to work with us and want to continue to work with us. And we need to make our messages very sticky to make sure that we stand out. Lonza is a famous company in the pharma industry, but so it's not so much about the brand awareness, but it's really about continuing to create the value the customers recognize in us. So it's really an exciting role. It's going to be a different role from the one that I've done for the past 3 years. So I'm really excited about it.
Okay, excellent. Well, we're going to dive further into that as we get into the interview, but I still want to talk about your general experience as a marketing professional. Could you talk to me about some of the experiences that have shaped you as a marketing professional throughout your career?
I've done a number of different roles in different industries, actually. I started in B2C, so working with the consumer products, and then I moved into B2B, so business to business, which I find actually really challenging and interesting because, well, the tactics and the techniques are different, albeit in a marketing role. And customers tend to be sophisticated, tend to know what they want and what they look for. So you need to really up your game if you want to convince or wow customers, particularly in an industrial space. Experiences that have shaped me as a professional, there are many. I've been lucky enough to have an international career. So I've worked in different countries, Finland, Brazil, Italy, and Belgium and US. And I think what really gave me the measure of the impact that marketing has or can have in a business is basically going along sales calls with my sales colleagues, also in previous jobs that I've had, because that's when you really get to hear directly from the customers what is it that they want from you, right? What keeps them up at night. And as a marketeer, having that first source of feedback that hopefully is not even filtered with anything, any negotiation tactics or any promotional event, that gives you so many ideas to come back to the office and either run a different campaign, a new campaign, create or launch a new product. So that certainly is my biggest takeaway that has given me so much passion for the job. Another element that really shaped my thinking around customer-centric innovation was in my previous role in a company called Cargill. I was working very closely with the R&D teams, and we created a lot of new products and new innovation together with the customers. So with the Unilever or the Danone of the world, for example. And by working together with them at the lab bench, as a marketeer, not being a food technologist myself, I learned a lot about the solutions, but as I said, I learned a lot about the ultimate need that the customers had, and that it would end up serving a consumer base. So that was a fascinating element. I can't say I have that element now in pharma because I'm not a scientist myself by background. But I think it's working with the technical aspect of things as a marketeer is very important. It gives you a lot of knowledge. It allows you to speak the same language as a specialist, I would say, which is invaluable in my opinion.
Okay, Sarah, I'd like to zoom into the sales calls that you used to participate in your other roles. Could you talk to me about some of the ideas that you generated thanks to those calls that you had with your customers?
I think there've been both good calls and bad calls in a way. And by bad, I don't mean bad specifically, but customers have been tough or challenging with us, as sometimes happens. And I think those are the ones that sparked the biggest aha moments, right? When you go back to the office or home and you really think about what the customers told you, and you think, really, I mean, that just, it drives me mad that they are showing how maybe some of our competitors are doing it better for them, right? So that's really when it sparked some of our campaigns that went a bit more, we're a bit more bold in the way we portrayed ourselves, not in an arrogant way, but just by calling out what was the ultimate value proposition or the unique selling point of either the product or the company itself. And I think a corollary to that was some of those calls when actually the customers are telling you, wow, you're doing it so much better than competition. And that again goes back into fueling campaigns that are showing, really highlighting, claiming that value that you're creating. Sometimes in B2B, we tend to be, I'm not saying shy, but we tend to hide a little bit the concrete value and proof point that we can create for customers, right? In B2C is a lot more direct because you have to impact consumer base, which is very diverse, is very wide, and there's a lot of noise. And I think by, as I said, either getting the permission from the customers to claim that value or being pushed by them into developing that value more because we were not doing it that well before, then that gave us the extra fuel for the marketing campaigns that we needed. So we ran a few that were quite successful. And we're very sticky in that sense.
What about a B2B campaign versus a B2C campaign that you've led? What were the main differences? Obviously, besides the clients, like on the one side, you're focusing on businesses, companies, on the other side, you're focusing on customers. But if you could zoom into the main differences when it comes to language, when it comes to visuals, when it comes to the type of content.
I think maybe with the risk of like swearing in church, I think what we did in B2B, we created very customer-friendly campaigns because in a way the logic behind that was our customers are, yes, sophisticated experts in their field. Oftentimes they're technical with a technical background, so they want to hear technical arguments. Nevertheless, they're still people.
Yeah.
So they will still respond to those psychological mechanisms that marketing is actually, rooted in.
Right.
The power of, just seeing something and that sticks with you, that you will remember throughout the week, right? Or the power of looking at something that makes you pause and makes you want to ask more questions. So we try to blend a little bit of this psychology aspects of which is very heavy in B2C. But then you need to add an extra layer to that. I mean, it's not the bait and switch technique, right? So once you have their attention in B2B, then you have to substantiate with actually, concrete messages. So that's what we did, and we're doing right now. So it's really making it very attractive and very memorable. But at the same time, there's always the so what. There's always the next step.
You're tapping into the human element, regardless of if it's a B2B or B2C campaign. You're still reaching out to your customers as human beings.
Yes. I mean, I'm talking in general here, of course. It depends very much on the industry, it depends on the segment, it depends on the product you're advertising. So I don't want to make a blanket statement here. But if I'm looking at the trend, so far in the way me and my team have worked. You could say that. You could say that the still touching the person across the table or across the Zoom call is still one of the most effective ways of doing business, in my opinion.
Okay, excellent. What about the brands that you've admired lately during COVID-19 times? Spinning off of that response, of course, because those have been the brands that have grabbed your attention.
That's right. I must say that they're both B2C brands. So here I have my consumer, as I'm a consumer myself, hat on. One is the Nissan campaign, Ode to Empty Roads. I don't know if you've seen that one. I thought it was brilliant. It's a commercial that is shot in Dubai.
Okay.
On the road between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which is basically an endless highway. It's just straight highway in the middle of the desert. And because of the lockdown, simply there was no traffic and there was nobody to clean the road. So the road was half covered with desert sand.
Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful image. But the message was, stay home. It's okay. We can enjoy the empty roads, right? Because it's more important for you to stay safe and stay home. So oftentimes with COVID campaigns, I thought sometimes the message was a bit, too much, how can I say? I mean, too corny maybe, but this one I think touched really the right note, in my opinion. And it didn't really touch much about the product. It was more about, let's enjoy what we have at the moment. And then a second one, I'm Italian, by the way, as a background. So when I went to Italy in June, I saw this commercial. It's a Vodafone, Vodafone Italy, and they made a nice commercial about the power of connection through their services, evidently. But it was about basically the fact that now we couldn't really see people, or we could only see a small bubble, so your family and maybe one or two close friends. Then you appreciate those interactions even more. And having the technology that enables you to feel like almost as if the interaction is happening in real time is invaluable. So it's a nice commercial that shows people cooking together, playing music together, but it's still through technology. So you can see the human element is coming back. So it's something that is very dear to my heart. And then there's an edgy one that I thought I would mention. It's not really a campaign or a commercial. It's by a very clever guy by the name of Dan Kelsall, who's a marketing guru, I would say, in the UK. He works for Offended Marketing. And he, at the very beginning of COVID, I must say, he did a couple of campaigns on his website and on LinkedIn. One on cutting marketing budgets, which is quite common, I must say, at the moment across industries. So, of course, he was vehemently against that, but in a very clever way. And the second one, as I said, it's edgy, is basically against using Corona or COVID in every single campaign that you do. So not just because this is happening and it's a global pandemic and it's touching everybody in every aspect of our lives doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you have to shove into every campaign that you do. And I thought it was quite clever. So I thought I would mention that.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you for zooming into those examples. So, Sara, I was on your LinkedIn profile and I read that you built a marketing team from scratch.
Yeah.
Could you tell me more about that experience? What roles were essential for you and which ones were just nice to have?
Yeah, so that has been a wonderful experience. That actually was connected with my getting the job at Lonza. It was really, the mandate was, okay, create a team, build it and develop it. And that was basically a work of labor and love of the past 3 years. What roles are essential? I must caveat that by saying that it depends heavily on the industry sector and culture of the company and the industry that you work for. Because I came with a set of ideas that I thought they were absolutely right, dead on. And then by simply looking at how things were done by us, by competition, by customers, I realized that not everything was a good fit. So we had to pivot, we had to change. So my first word of advice to anybody who has to build a team from scratch would be, first of all, try to understand what really are the needs of the business. Don't bring the marketing textbook together with you and start from there, because you may fall a bit far from where you need to be. However, having said that, I mean, digital, you cannot do anything without digital experts and specialists. So you could outsource that. I mean, there's a lot of great companies who consult on that. But if you have somebody on your team who's really skilled at anything digital, so web, SEO, SEM, digital campaigns, tracking, monitoring, evaluating, A/B testing, that is invaluable. I mean, that gives you the opportunity to test things in real time. If you want to be creative with your campaigns, you want to see what works, what doesn't. It gives you the chance, particularly now, to engage with your customers wherever they are. Doesn't matter the time zone, doesn't matter the language. So that is certainly the cornerstone, I would say, where I would start now if I had to create a team from scratch. I think brand is also invaluable, even in the B2B segment, heavily industrial B2B segment, because if you don't have a strong brand, in the end, you risk becoming a commodity, right? And that has all kinds of business implications on pricing, on revenue, on the budget that you'll be able to command as a marketing organization. So being able to show the return of your brand, the equity, measure the goodwill that you are able to generate through brand is really invaluable. Let me think what else. I think also having a function that allows you to engage with your customers in a way that is effective is very important. So now that blurs a bit into the digital realm because, as I said, certainly because of Corona, but even before Corona, having customers all over the world, you need to be able to have a platform to engage with them without having to hop on a plane every single day. But there it's a slightly different skill set in the sense that you need to have somebody who can put themselves in the shoes of the customer and can really have, maybe somebody is more like an innovation manager, right? But borrowed to marketing to basically co-create a space where you can innovate or co-innovate with your customers. It doesn't matter if it's in person or through an innovation platform. So I would say those would be certainly the cornerstones. And I mean, there's many roles that you cannot do without. I mean, the whole intelligence team, right? If you don't know what the market is doing, where the market is going, what your competition is doing, that's going to be a tough job, right? But if you ask me to pick three, if I only have 3 spots to fill, then I would say those 3.
Okay, Sarah. So who did you end up hiring?
Well, actually, yeah. So indeed, digital for sure. The intelligence team for sure. We also have product managers, which is a bit. I was hinting towards that when I was talking about the innovation, co-innovation with customers. We also had events management people. Before Corona, that was very important. Now we've translated everything into virtual. And content as well. So content generation, content creation across our platform, social media, our website. So that was the team. And also because it's a global company and it's a global brand, it's important to localize as well. So everything was managed centrally out of Europe, actually, because I'm based in Europe. Lonza is based in Basel. However, in the team, we had people in the different regions. So Asia Pacific, in the different countries, Asia Pacific, North America, South America, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, to make sure that you can translate those insights and those marketing initiatives in a way that not only language-wise, but culture-wise makes sense to your customer base. Because if you take a one-size-fits-all approach, then often it falls flat in the ears of your customers. So
Definitely. Sarah, so let's say somebody who doesn't have a pharma background wants to be part of your team. Is that possible? Do you have to be an expert in the industry in order to work in that industry? Or
no.
Can you learn on the go?
In my opinion, no. Certainly you need to have curiosity and passion for learning, that's for sure. Because you need to be able to carry conversations with your colleagues, technical experts, and customers, right? So you need to understand what we're talking about. But I am not a scientist myself. I don't have a PhD in chemistry, so I would never require that of my team. I think what really matters, you have to have the right marketing mindset. So if you come from a technical background and you've moved into marketing and you have that passion, that's wonderful. If you're a purebred marketeer, that's also wonderful. As long as you have that right attitude on, I want to create, grown, launch brands, products, initiatives, and I want customers to return, to come back and do more business with us. For me, that's fine. That's what I'm looking for,
Okay. So I would love to learn more about Lonza because we've mentioned it several times throughout this interview, but for our audience to know just a 30-second elevator pitch, I think would be really good for them in order to provide them with more context, right? So what is Lonza?
Well, Lonza is a very large pharmaceutical and chemical compound business based in Switzerland. It was founded at the end of the 19th century, so it's quite an old company. It has revenues of up to 6 billion, and it's basically one of the leaders in the CDMO space. What's the CDMO space? So it's custom contract development and manufacturing. So basically what Lonza does, we manufacture drug products on behalf of customers like Novartis, like Bayer, like Moderna. You might have heard of Moderna. So it takes really deep technical expertise. So I think what Lonza has is really top-notch scientists and research and development. That is absolutely top-notch. And then, of course, you need to translate that into operational excellence because you need to produce the medicines actually for the world. So not only you have to have the right science, but you have to have the right operations to actually do it well with quality, safety, and ensuring that these medicines are produced according to specs, and standards.
So during COVID-19, have you had the chance to unlearn anything about marketing?
Yeah, a lot of things actually. About marketing and about team management and people, I would say. Marketing, I think in a way we had to throw away the rule book and kind of start over because everybody's talking about the digitalization, right? That COVID did more for digitalization than all the CIO in the world could do in the past 10 years. And that's true. So for marketing, that also means we cannot go at it into this new world with the techniques that we were using before without pivoting or without changing.
Yeah.
So we had to drop a lot of things. We had to drop a lot of the plans that we had for this year, that we had budget against. We had already basically created the content for, because simply that was not possible. There were other priorities. And I think the flexibility of your planning is even more than ever really, really important. And again, to go back to the digital, it might be a truism, but if you don't have flexibility and strong capabilities in digital, it's going to be very, very tough to run marketing from now on, I think. And particularly in engaging with the customers, I think another element that we learned the hard way is we kind of took for granted in a way that we could go visit customers or we could meet them at industry events or conferences. So there were all these spaces that were dedicated to seeing customers face to face.
Yeah.
And that does a lot for your brand, because you're always top of mind, you're always present. With this COVID period, everybody's at home. So you're no longer front and center, you're no longer top of mind. So how are you going to get there? And quickly, I don't know if you had the same impression, but quickly the space has become filled with a lot of content and activities and virtual events. So even before, I would say even more than before, we're competing for the attention of our customers.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, the learning here is, one, don't take for granted the fact that your customers are thinking about you as you were before, because simply you had the chance to meet them very quickly and very often. And because of the saturation of the space, then you need to really be strategic in the way that you engage with them. Okay. So I don't have answers to all these elements because it's something that we're still developing and learning every day.
Yeah.
But again, if you think about the tried and true marketing techniques that they teach you at school, I think a lot of it has to be revised in this new day and age. So yeah, it's good because it keeps you on your toes, right? You need to keep learning.
Definitely. Okay, so what ways have you been strategic within your team?
I think what we prioritized has been engaging with customers, but not in a spray and pray manner, but really very targeted, regionally on specific topics and on specific segments of customers. Because again, the competition for their attention has, increased tenfold. At the same time, the attention span of customers has decreased because I think we can also say it for ourselves, at least for myself, the balance of your life has changed, right? So what you're focusing on or refocusing on today is maybe slightly different from before COVID. So what we saw is customers are maybe less available than before, or if they are available, they don't put up with just about anything anymore. They've become very selective with their attention and their time. And so if you want to get through to them, then you really need to make sure that you're staying true to who you are and to your brand and your message, and just get rid of everything else. The fluff, the pose, the flash, just forget about that. Just go back to the basic of engaging with them with a message that is absolutely in sync with who you are as a company or as a brand or as a product. And that we saw really, we saw the difference basically on those interactions that were, as I said, true and honest, so to speak. They capture so much more value, and customers really want to engage. If it's more the generic high-level approach that would probably liken to a trade show approach in a face-to-face world, then really you have a tough time getting a hold of your customers.
So Sara, more like account-based marketing.
Definitely account-based marketing, I think, is going to increase a lot more, and within the same account, even carving out the specific functions or subsegments of the customers who need to hear from you. So make sure that your message is really targeted, and as I said, really true, honest, core. Just leave the pose, leave the rest. It simply doesn't come through.
Okay, Sara, let's talk about your new role.
Yes.
So it's going to be in advertising, right?
And brand, yes.
And branding. So advertising and branding. What do you hope to achieve in the first 6 months, taking into consideration the unstable times that we're living in right now?
Well, of course, the holy grail is always to show ROI, right? To show the return on investment of your initiatives. So that will be certainly a big focus in the new role. Make sure that we do initiatives that are, as I said, targeted, make sense, and will bring return on investment. So customers will want to do more business with us because of them. At the same time, there's an internal element, because this is a role, as I said, is not linked to one specific business unit or division of Lonza. It's across divisions. Then there's an entire element of change management and alignment of processes and ideas. And ultimately, what the vision is behind this team is to have a one cohesive Lonza experience for our customers. Instead of seeing 10 different faces, depending on which division or which department of the division they're meeting, to have one seamless experience, customer experience of Lonza as a brand, as a company, as a pharmaceutical player. So 6 months to achieve that maybe is ambitious, but the building blocks to get there have to be put now in these 6 months.
From my background research, pharma industry is a pretty regulated industry, especially in Europe when it comes to advertising it, right? So did you have to take a training course in order to understand what regulations are in what markets, or how did you fall into this?
I must say I've been very lucky because we have wonderful regulatory and quality colleagues in Lonza, and they are the experts. So yes, they actually give training and support. So again, be curious and just learn. But I don't pretend to be the expert on it. So basically, it's always working together with our regulatory department to make sure that whatever we say, whatever we communicate outside is according to standard, right? I mean, as I said, we don't want to claim anything that is not even remotely true. Or again, we don't like the bait and switch technique. I mean, it's a serious B2B industry that is dealing with people's health. So be creative, but at the same time, make sure to stay within the boundaries that are allowed by regulation. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sarah, I would love to put some of this theory into practical examples. Could you zoom into a campaign or project that just has really exceeded all of your KPIs this year? And what was the purpose and why did that stand out?
So I think we talked about the fact that because of COVID, we cannot leverage all the things we used to take for granted as marketeers, like in-person events, trade shows, conferences, which actually used to give a lot of demand generation ROI for us. So we had to be clever, and my team came up with a brilliant idea, in my opinion, which is virtual events. Okay, there's a million virtual platforms, but we did it a bit differently in the sense that it was, like you said, account-based. So specifically for certain accounts in certain regions about specific topics. And then we created like an entire virtual platform where basically we recreated the interaction of an innovation day that you would have at our R&D centers in our plants, for example, where we had our technical experts, our R&D specialists, and we met with customers on specific topics. So the one that comes to mind actually is the one that we ran in Japan for 1 full week. About specifically our equipment and anything that we can do from a technical and technological perspective for them to help solve some of the bioavailability issues that they have in their pharmaceutical products. So it was really interesting because it was a complete virtual platform. So you could actually navigate and download pieces of content and watch videos and 3D videos of our equipment at the same time, because we had the experts there. For 1 full week, you could really see these conversations, very technical conversations ongoing, just like you would in a real innovation day at your R&D center. So I think it was a really good success, and it was very, very rewarding to organize and to watch and participate in, and customers loved it because they got answers, they got projects out of it, and they also, I think, had the feeling that, we just didn't go AWOL because of COVID. We were still there. Okay, you cannot come to our plant, you cannot come to our lab, but we recreate the lab around you then. So, we still stay in touch and we still try to solve your issues. So yeah, that's one of the things that I think worked pretty well this summer.
Okay, very interesting. So we are coming towards the end of this section, but before we wrap this section up, Sarah, if you could do anything in this world, let's say you're given a $1 billion to do whatever you want in this world, would it still be marketing?
Oh, on a personal level?
On a personal and a professional level, if you could do anything.
On a professional level, yes, it would still be marketing because that's my first love and passion. So if I had unlimited budget, then I would run really creative campaigns. And I think because of the situation we find ourselves in, I think I would love to run a global brand campaign that also gives back in one way or another. I haven't thought it through and I don't have the means, but if I did, I would like to have that kind of impact. On a personal note, I don't know, I guess I would like maybe to start my own business.
Very appropriate after business school.
That's right. I think that's still a little bit of a dream that is in a drawer. And who knows? We'll see.
Time will tell. Okay, moving into our set of rapid fire questions, which are basically your recommendations for our audience. Sarah, who do you admire? So someone who inspires you, a professional influencer or a role model?
Well, I have 2 people who may not be known to a wide audience, but one is the dean of my business school, Marion de Bruin. She's actually a professor of marketing and strategy, and she then became the first female dean of our business school. So yeah, role model, and she's wonderful. She's really smart and a great marketeer. So I mean, what's there not to like? Yeah, exactly. And I would say from the famous celebrity, I admire a lot Michelle Obama, for everything. You know, how she ran her and managed her career and her professional life, and the really powerful sources of positive and elegant inspiration that she is. And one that I had since I was a little girl, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because she was an ante litteram feminist in a way that really made an impact on society. Not really feminist only, like civil rights advocate. So yeah, that's one of the biggest influencers as a personal, on a personal level.
Okay, beautiful. What about a book, a group, a community, or an event that you find to be particularly valuable?
I'll talk about books because I read a lot, and particularly now in COVID, because I cannot travel, then I've been reading anything I could get my hands on. So I'll maybe mention 2 or 3 books. One is Humanocracy by Hazel and Zanini, which is a great book about running companies, like large companies, corporations, in a way that is very human-minded. And it's a very interesting book because it shows the return on investment of doing it. So you don't do it just for the sake of doing it or out of the goodness of your heart, but also because it drives business results. Another really good one is Range by David Epstein, who argues about basically the beauty of being a generalist in a world where increasingly we are pushed to specialize into a niche, into something. He's arguing, again, with scientific research and data, that being a generalist makes you smarter and makes you more successful and brings a better contribution to your field of choice. Because essentially your brain will be wired towards flexibility and basically handling the data points that you get from the world, the input, in a way that is more productive. So I thought it was interesting. And then The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Well, anything by Simon Sinek, to be honest. But that's the latest one, and I'm reading it right now, and it's great. It's really inspirational. And I think as a business leader, you need to, as I said, take into account the human element everywhere you go if you want to be successful. So.
Okay. Well, all those answers tie in perfectly with your marketing strategy as well. Very human-centric marketing strategy.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And Sara, last but not least, what's your favorite app at the moment and why?
I must say it's Deliveroo.
Oh.
Because, especially during the lockdown, you couldn't go anywhere. So getting food delivered, you could still have a nice meal and a nice evening at home. So yeah, we use it a lot.
Very interesting. I actually just interviewed their global team of content, and that interview is going to be released on Monday. So stay tuned for more.
Looking forward. I'll tune in.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, Sara, it's been a pleasure to meet you, to learn more about the pharma industry, to learn more about your marketing strategy, and to get to know you on a personal level. So thank you.
Thank you, Carlota. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Likewise. And to everybody listening in today, thank you for joining us on The Content Mix. For more perspectives on the content marketing industry in Europe, check out The Content Mix. We'll be releasing interviews just like this one every day. So keep on tuning in. Thanks again. Have a fabulous day and see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.